Welcome to Life Camera Acting. This is the podcast that shines a light on the business of acting. I'm your host, Scott Akis. My friends and I will chat about the good and the bad of working as an actor, as well as how to deal with the challenges of life while working in a career that, well, it just refuses to follow any standard business practices from other industries. Life for us can be quirky, equal parts rejection and triumph, but it really is what we make it. And perhaps by hearing some of the stories of my friends and myself, it might give you a chance to figure out other options that you can use in the challenges of your life and other ways to create those triumphs that you're looking for. So today I have with me Michael Williams, my old buddy. Hey man, it's good to see you.
I know, always good to see you.
Thank you for joining me. All right, so Michael Williams, a little bit about Michael. He was born in Buffalo, New York, in a very traditional Italian household. Taking a big risk at the age of 15, Michael moved to LA for a fresh start, and then wound up living oceanfront Fort Lauderdale for 10 years. I can't imagine those years living in LA and then Fort Lauderdale, but I'm sure we'll get a little into that a little bit. Michael settled in Dallas, Texas in 1993, and during this time, he utilized his entrepreneurial skills and owned a couple different construction companies while he focused on his true gift in sales and marketing and launched his first technological company, which became very profitable from the very first month. Michael has a son, Caleb, and has raised two stepchildren, Brandon and Heather. Throughout the years, Michael has enjoyed training in boxing, taekwondo, American Jiu-Jitsu, and has been an athletic bodybuilder since his 20s and has been a personal fitness trainer since 2008. One thing that you didn't know is I invited you here to do a podcast. We're actually having a wrestling match. In 2014, an acting and modeling agent saw Michael's potential, and he was encouraged to take up acting and modeling due to his great personality, tip-top athletic shape, and success in business. Even though he continued to run his companies and help raise his family, as well as maintain a vigorous workout schedule, Michael gave the acting world a shot. And I'm glad you did. He auditioned and landed a principal role for NBC Dallas-Fort Worth investigative news team commercial with an LA producer. And in 2017, Michael decided to scale back to just one business so he could devote more time to his passion, his acting career. In 2019, Michael was fortunate to become an acting member with the Extra Mile Acting Workshop, led by the esteemed actor Glenn Morshower. And in 2019, Michael landed a main supporting role, Leo, King of the Ring, Luciano, in the feature film The Devil's Ring. And that was directed by award-winning director Juan Salas, and it premiered in 2021. While assisting and working closely with Juan, Michael discovered that he had a hidden passion for writing. And discovering this opened up new doors, and Michael was invited to co-author a feature film. That's impressive, brother. Michael's passion for film and TV has led him on a journey of unlimited opportunities and knowing that his fulfillment in life is through the art of entertainment. Michael, welcome to Life Camera Acting.
Well, Scott, I really appreciate you having me here today. It's an honor and a blessing.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure. I'll tell you a little bit about this before we get started. The format of this is made because I firmly believe that as humans, we connect best in the least formal situations, usually over a meal or maybe a drink. And so we recreate that here. I'm too lazy to cook you a meal, but I can always make sure that your drink of choice is on hand, and you have a special margarita mixture that we put together for you. And I am going to drink a little bit of Mercartier cognac, the VSOP kind. Oh, and the special Scott's Tavern Cup. Here we go. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's the stuff.
Good way to start the afternoon.
Absolutely. You just came off of a big trip. You're a traveling man.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, as a kid, I've always been adventurous. And like you said, at an early young age, at 15, most people don't just take off and leave a state like New York and travel to the other end of the country, California. So I've always been a risk taker. That's what's led me into opening different companies and taking risk. And, you know, um, I, I just believe that I'm a no excuses kind of guy. And it doesn't matter if we can't look at it as we have limitations. It doesn't matter if you lack education, if you lack experience, if you're persistent and you're confident, great things will happen if you're willing to move forward and make good choices and good decisions.
Well, I know that you are a testament to that because um, I've known you since the early 2000s. I mean, it's been a long time.
Yeah, at the Rowlett Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. I
In the
was
business world.
it was what neither one of us were really into acting back then,
Yeah.
and we found it since. So you, like me, went the route of business before you ended up in acting and writing. Same as me. Um, how did having the business background help you or hinder you, maybe both, in the entertainment world?
Um, well, in acting, I see every life experience as a benefit in the acting world because I could draw from every experience and utilize that in some way in acting. And also, to kind of go back to your original question, which I kind of like skimmed over it about coming back from a major vacation, but I did just come back from a 3.5 week island hopping vacation in the Philippines. The month before that, I was in Turkey and in Dubai. So my thing is I believe in working hard, but I also believe in enjoying life as we go along. And
Yes.
again, back to the no excuses. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I wish I could travel like you." Well, then do it. Figure out a way to do it.
I love it. I love it. And clearly, you figured it out because you travel. I mean, it's almost every month.
Yeah, I take a lot of vacations, probably 8 to 10 vacations a year. I've been doing it for the last 30 years. When I lived oceanfront on Fort Lauderdale Beach, I was thinking back, I never took vacations, but I was on a permanent vacation when I was there. So
that is a vacation. You went and lived it.
yeah,
But I mean, I think there's something to that. Like, you're living life, and life requires work. You found work you love, and life for me, for you, and I think for a lot of people, is also about the experience of life, and you're making the most of your experience. I think a lot of people, there is nothing wrong with, working for a corporation or the government or whatever. Even like you and me owning our own businesses. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think people sometimes forget to work to live, and they wind up over time living to work. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I mean, I see you doing the exact opposite. So, knowing what you know now, like you've set yourself in a really nice position. Knowing what you know now, would you change anything about your career path?
No, because I live by no regrets. Sometimes I would catch myself thinking, well, you know what? When I lived in Florida, I wish I didn't party so much when I lived on the beach, but I went through 12 spring breaks, but then I was thinking, no, I'm not going to regret that because I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. I made a lot of money in sales, and I spent a lot of money. I like to enjoy life. So sometimes I think like, oh, you know what? I wish I would have saved more. But then I think back and I think, no, I was doing exactly what I wanted to do at that point in my life. So a big message that I want to give is don't live by regret. It does you no good.
That's interesting. I mean, I understand 100% the no regret motto that you live by, and I have something similar in my life. But it, I listened to you speak, and it made me think that today's Michael is not allowed to judge yesterday's Michael, because yesterday's Michael was doing the best things that yesterday's Michael could do with what they had, like what they knew and what they had at that time. And I think a lot of people, that's a trap, right? A lot of people don't have that wisdom.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, growing up in New York, like you said, I was raised in a very traditional Italian upbringing.
Are you Italian?
Yes.
There's no giveaway. None.
So I'm actually half Italian, half German, but being raised by just my mom and on my mom's side of the family, which my mom was full-blooded Italian. So my grandmother, who lived to be 103 years old, bless her soul, she was living at home, able to feed herself and walking up until a week before she died. And me and my grandmother always had a close, very close relationship, and she was a big inspiration in my life and always had a strong faith in God. And she would always say to me, Michael, you just got to make the best of every situation. And when I got older, I just said to her, like, Graham, like, it seems like you're always so happy and joyful, and have you ever gone through any struggles in your life? You would think she wouldn't, but she'd been through the Great Depression.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was off in the Navy for 2 years, and she had to raise kids on her own. They didn't have a car back then.
Wow.
They didn't have washers and dryers and microwaves and all the conveniences they have. So my message about that is, she just said, you always got to make the best of every situation. And it helped me to live a life of positivity and just enjoy life, you know?
Well, I mean, one of the biggest things that affect people, like on their jobs, not our job necessarily, but I think in our industry too, but in general, jobs, is anxiety. Like people, especially since 2020, the numbers have spiked of people that report that they are just dealing with anxiety, worried. Like worried to me is a useless emotion. Like it's there, it's an emotion. Sometimes maybe you can't help it, but there's nothing positive that comes out of investing in that.
Yes.
But people are anxious nowadays, and you've figured out some sort of system or approach to life that sort of insulates you from that. And I hear you, some of it, or maybe a lot of it, comes from your grandmother, but you had to learn these lessons on your own too. I mean, how do you get to this? Like, if somebody's like, I want to be like him, but I'm not. I mean, what's a step? What is something somebody can do?
Well, that's interesting, because back along with one of the things my grandmother used to say is, hey, Michael, everybody has problems, whether they're marital, financial, medical, health. We all have things that we're dealing with. And a lot of people might think, I don't ever have any issues. I've been through some traumatic things in my life. But at the same time, simultaneously, we have hundreds of thousands of blessings. There's so many things to be thankful for. And to me, it's all about self-talk. And if we are worried, it's because of the messages we're feeding ourselves. We have the power of decision. We have the power to choose to think whatever we want. And I came up with the coined phrase, gratitude is an antidepressant. Because I catch myself sometimes maybe starting to worry, but it's thoughts that I'm allowing to penetrate. And then I just reject that. And I say, you know what? Everything's going to be okay. It doesn't matter what our circumstances are. they're not going to change. The only thing we have control over are our thoughts. So in order to overcome that and be positive is a lot of self-talk. And that's where our confidence comes from as well. And for me, I believe in God.
Okay.
If somebody else doesn't, that's cool. You know, whether you believe in the universe or whatever, but there's certain laws. You reap what you sow, you know? Or I have a lot of Buddhist friends that I respect, really great people. For them, it's karma,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So if we're feeding ourselves positive affirmations, the outcome is going to be positive. And that's how I combat a lot of, you know, like dealing with something that could create anxiety. I just know God's going to always take care of me.
Right.
It's not because I just sit on the sidelines and do nothing, you know. We need to be proactive.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, one other thing, it's a matter of who we surround ourselves with, too.
True. That's very true. Back to your first point, I would never get this analogy correct, but I'm going to paraphrase it. There is a monster inside of each and every one of us that wants to eat us alive from the inside out. And there is this healing being that's also a part of us that wants to nourish us and heal us. And we have a limited amount of food. Which one do we feed? And everything you said I just kept coming back to that notion, that thought is that, you know, I believe very firmly in the notion of choice. You know, people use the phrase, oh, I didn't have a choice. And that's something I reject. I feel like we always have a choice. Sometimes we don't always have two good choices, but we always have a choice. And if we feel like we were forced in a certain direction, it's more because we didn't assert our choice. But that's very inspiring, you know, hearing you talk about that. And it is about who we surround ourselves with. There's a question that I usually save for the very last question in my chats, but it's just appropriate right now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and ask it. There's a good chance for you to shout out some people if you want to, but none of us get where we are trying to get to or where we want to get to in the future by ourselves. Like I can't think of a single major success in my life that somebody else wasn't attached to that success, like that you know, helped me along, took me under their wing, did something to prop me up and put me in position to be successful. You're an actor. We haven't even talked about that yet, but we will. As an actor, where do you get your support from?
Well, when you raise that question, I think about the past. There's been people along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something I talk about a lot. I'm very intentional about surrounding myself with very loving, positive, encouraging, supportive, authentically genuine, caring people. And I distance myself as far away from negative people that are about drama and conflict, and that frees us up. But you know, it's the people that we surround ourselves with. It's all about relationships. One person that glowingly sticks out is my acting coach, Glenn Morshower. For me, it's like church, being in, you know, class, acting class with him and all of the people, and everybody's all about love and support, acceptance, building each other up and building each other's confidence. And what I love about the class, that's how I've always been.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always intentional about building people up. If people follow me on social media, they'll see that I'm always posting positive things. It's not that I have negative things that don't happen. And I
Right.
shouldn't say negative things, challenges,
Sure.
struggles. But again, look on the bright side of it. And, another person that since I moved here 29 years ago, a gentleman who I met at church, the church that I used to go to for 21 years, Michael Hale. And him and his family just took me in, as if I was, part of their family. And just somebody that was always accepting, loving, encouraging, always there for me. Somebody that, so one of the ways I judge a good friend is, and I'm really big on confidentiality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody I could share things with that I know, even if I asked him not to share with his wife, he wouldn't.
Mm.
Years ago when I was married, I was divorced back in 2014, but when I have struggles in my marriage, he was somebody that I would go to because I know he wouldn't share that with anyone else, and he would be objective and he wouldn't take a side.
Right.
And we all need somebody like that in our life, that's going to encourage us and just be there for us, and sometimes just listen, and always be, a sounding board for us. So.
I swear we're going to get into the acting, but just listening to you talk is inspiring to me. And, I I know that we talked about your working out and all that stuff. There's a lot of very macho things that people think make up what a strong man is. But just hearing you talk, the choices that you make are, in my eyes, make you strong. Like you're an example of strength. You know, you say and you dust them off so easily. Yeah, it's negative things that happen in my life, but I choose to focus on the positive. And then you talk about, I went through a divorce, and all right, I'm making a bit of an assumption, but just there was a change in your voice. Maybe the divorce itself was tough, right? And I could see that because you're about relationships and family and stuff like that. So, but like you are able to say in the breath before, I've been through some negative things, but it's okay. And then then that just kind of comes up as an example. That's rough, brother. That's rough. And you managed to put that in your rearview mirror, look forward, still bring joy to other people, not, be a bitter person yourself. That's hard.
Yeah. Well, one thing I look back and I think, wow, that's an experience. I got to go through that experience, whether it was good or bad. And then you realize that we're way tougher and way stronger than we really are. And it helps me to relate to other people that I would have never known what it was like to go through something like that had I not gone through it myself. Mm-hmm. So I could be a support to somebody else.
And there it is again. And we won't circle this too long, but that's the strength. You take a negative, because that's a negative situation. We can say it, and you flip it into a positive. Your approach is, wow, I get to help somebody because now I know what this is like.
Yeah. And I just have no regrets for the decisions I made. Here's another thing I want to say is I believe that all individuals are mega intelligent, brilliant, because to me, God is all intelligence, and we're made in the likeness and the image of God. So we're pure intelligence. There are no stupid people. And I hope that resonates with everyone. And the reason why, because sometimes people think, I'm just not as smart as the other person. If you know more about a topic than me, say you're a doctor, mm-hmm. The only reason you know more about that topic than me, not because you're smarter than me, because you made a decision to learn more about that topic than me. Not that I couldn't do that. I used to think I wasn't smart enough to be a pilot. And then I decided in 2011 to start flying small engine airplanes, and I always remembered something somebody told me, you always got to weigh the cost. So I did it for about 6 months. It was really expensive. It took up a lot of my time, but I realized I could do anything, and everybody needs to realize that. So the only thing with us. We're all mega intelligent, brilliant, creative individuals. The only thing we do maybe is make unintelligent decisions.
Or maybe not be intelligent on a particular topic. You have things that maybe your DNA is just built for, and you get a lot of joy out of it, so you spend a lot of time. You happen to know more because of that. Somebody else, that same activity might, it might, cause that anxiety or just repulse them in some way. They never spend time with it. You're going to be more intelligent about that than they will be over a period of time. Yeah, I agree with you. It's an outlook on humanity. People are smart. People want to do well. People want to care for others and be cared for. I share all of that with you. And then there are things that get in the way. A lot of it's built into society. Some is built into, other institutions. But it's being able there is an intelligence in being able to shed some of that stuff that doesn't bring value to your life, and you've found that key. So I want to transition into the acting world for you a little bit. I know you have some big projects that you've been a part of and that are starting to see the light of day, and that's really good. Let me start, though, before we get into those, and ask, because I think it would be a question that's on anybody's mind after what we've talked about so far. How do you balance owning a company, a successful company, traveling, as much as you do, and finding a way to be a successful actor? Because I can tell you there's a lot of actors out there that are going, huh? There's no way that I could be gone all the time and still figure out how to do this. Where's the secret sauce in this? How are you doing it?
Well, it all boils back down to what I said: choices, decisions. I work for other people, and I was restricted to their policies, their rules, the time that they set for me to work. Well, I decided to take a risk and to go into business for myself. I'm in sales. I created a business that I could work from any corner of the globe, anywhere in the world. And I'm able to manage my customers, and I work from home. It made it easy to raise my son and 2 stepkids. I had an ex-wife that traveled a lot, but that afforded me the ability to work and travel, and it just really matters what we're most passionate about. So I think it has to do with the choices that we make. And again, I'm going to go back to it. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not the best actor in the room.
You might be the smartest guy in this room.
But it really has to do with decisions. And it really has to do with, I'm just a no excuses kind of guy. If you want to do something, figure out how to do it. We're creative individuals.
I love it.
If you really want to do something, figure it out.
So if I could paraphrase, you have your priorities, and travel is a priority of yours, and you have structured everything you do to enable yourself to meet that priority. And you have other priorities. So let me ask you about those. People that hear you speak and want to maybe gravitate in the direction that you are in your direction. I'm not going to ask you what's your typical day like, because there's probably no good answer to that. But I will ask you, what are some things that you keep sort of sacred in your days? It doesn't have to happen every day, but the things that are recurring on most days that help you to either get to where you are or that help you get to where you're trying to go.
Well, that's an easy question for me, because a big part of my day is number one, continually feeding myself positive affirmations, being intentional about encouraging others, because I don't know, there's just something that makes me feel good and brings me so much joy to build others up. And eating healthy, taking time to prepare good meals, working out, listening to positive motivational like podcast, or turn on the TV while I'm doing cardio. I have an elliptical in my room, so I try to be efficient with my time. I'm doing my cardio for 30 minutes, 30 minutes, and I'm listening to YouTube, someone like Steve Harvey or The Power of Positive Thinking, some type of motivational type stuff. And then, I'm at a point in my life, and I have been for the last 9 years, of keeping a low stress life and still being able to achieve the things that I want to achieve. There's one book that just stands out that I read a long time ago, The 4-Hour Work Week.
Okay.
4-hour work week, not 4 hour
a day.
A day.
Yes.
4 hours a week. And I've got it down to about 1 or 2 hours. And, I've heard people say, and I understand what they're saying, is create a life that you don't need a vacation from. Right. But one of my passions is exploring the world. The world is yours to explore. God created this whole big, beautiful planet. There's so many different cultures and places to visit. That's one of my passions, and I'd love to go out and meet people. So, another part of my day is always thinking about what's my next adventure.
And I think that's important. Like, the things that are the highest priority to you in your life, you have to carve out. Well, you're either carving out time or you're just falling into it. Like, you're just doing it. But that time is going to be allocated towards those things. And that's why, sometimes it's hard to, it's hard for some people to grow, because growth in itself isn't one of those things. Mm-hmm. So they only focus on the stuff that they're most comfortable with. Obviously, growth for you is a big deal. You take the acting classes with Glenn Morshower, but you also surround yourself with people that will push you and help you to be better at what you do. And because we've had enough offline conversations, I know that you travel and you meet people, and you're a good listener. You take in, what you hear other people talking about. You take in what you see other people doing. And the situations that they're in and how they handle it. There is something amazing to be said about travel. I mean, like, you get a different perspective of humanity. And for some people, travel might mean just get outside of the general region that you live. Like, if you live in Dallas, get down to San Antonio, get out to El Paso. You don't have to travel to the Philippines or somewhere, like go to Oklahoma, go to Missouri. There's stuff to be seen everywhere, and people think and live different and have, different perspectives because of where they live and the conditions and cultures there. You know that more than anybody, but it's one of those things. Just, I find it so interesting, because I'm like you. I don't travel quite as much as you, but I travel as much as I can. I've got a big trip coming up next month. Going to celebrate some big events in my life, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I think that I'm just amazed by this conversation, because I've known you and I know your attitude. It's not like this is new to me, but some of the things that you're saying, just the when you get into the micro bits of this and you're talking about them, you are inspirational in a lot of ways.
Well, I appreciate that, because I like to inspire other people. And it's just something that's built in me. I mean, there are certain qualities I have. I've always been really generous, and I like to be generous with my time. And I guess growing up in a big, close-knit Italian family, it's always been about relationship and loyalty, mm-hmm. and spending time, quality time together and enjoying life. One thing I did want to touch on, since you talked about travel, is when I was in the Philippines, and I'll just talk about that trip specifically. I mean, I stayed in some pretty luxurious hotels on the beach, island hopping, but I also venture off into the very poor villages, the
Mm-hmm.
barangays, whatever, however you pronounce it. And I don't know that they call them villages, but I'm blown away at the poverty. These people are in these makeshift houses that in
Mud
I'm going to be
floors.
posting.
I've seen. Yes.
I'm going to be posting some videos, but it just causes me to have a greater appreciation, and I feel bad for a lot of those people, but they're still happy, a lot of them.
I was going to
And
ask you.
you're talking about struggle.
Yeah.
They can't. They've never even been to a dentist. They might be 40, 50 years old, never even thought about going to a dentist because they don't have the money. They barely have enough money to survive.
Well, not only are they happy, and I can't say this universally about everybody, but I've traveled a lot, and it seems like the people who have the least are the most hospitable too. Like they're going to share what they have with you, and they have the least to share. And that is, it's amazing to me that humans, we as humans can be that strong.
And for me, it's, I try to connect with those people genuinely. I don't look at them as, oh, well, you don't have what I have, or
Right.
like you're poor. They're just as valuable as me or any of my other friends that are mega wealthy. You know, I just value human life and I value people. Um, and I just, I really enjoy getting to know different people and having conversations with them and just being humble.
Well, I have a couple last questions for you. These are all about acting. I think it's important for you to be able to talk about your yourself as an actor a little bit. Um, so how do you prepare for a role? Like what is your approach?
Well, first of all, um, to not just memorize, but to metabolize the words. And I have a lot of,
Hold on, back up, because I mean, what does that mean? Like, what's the difference between memorizing the words and metabolizing words?
to me, it's just having them so memorized that I could be doing any activity and I don't have to think about what I'm going to say. The words just come out. I don't, and that gives me total confidence, which then I'm not worried in any form or fashion when it's action time. So to just memorize them so well that it's just like somebody that's a hockey player. They don't have to think about how to ice skate and balance themselves. That's subconscious.
Yes,
So,
I have to think about
yeah.
it.
So, that's what I mean. You don't get any credit for memorizing your lines.
Right.
That's a given. And so that's my first step. And I have different techniques that I use. I mean, I've had times where I had to memorize 7 pages on the spot. I had, you know, um, a supporting role for a film project, and they asked me to be the main character. Like they shifted gears.
Wow.
So I had to memorize my lines right away, and everybody was so impressed. But I had thought, I worked on different techniques of memorizing things very quickly.
Yeah, I find that interesting. I appreciate what you say about metabolizing the words. Really, there have been times when I go from reading the words to having them memorized, and just by doing that, I've achieved a much, like not a subtle difference, a much different understanding of the meaning. Like, it changed the whole script just from me having them, reading them, and then having them committed to memory. And then once they're metabolized, they are part, those words are part of my DNA in this moment. Sometimes it goes from having a different understanding of the script to having a different understanding of the character. And now I'm approaching, I'm saying things different. I'm doing things a little bit differently because I'm like climbing these levels. And I see that, and that's the metabolation. Is that right? Metabolation, metabolation of the words. To me, that really resonates. Um, how do you? What would you tell somebody that's looking to get into this industry as an actor? Like, what's important?
Well, number one is if it's something that you're passionate about. Um, for me, how I got into acting, I maybe thought about it as a kid, but at the time I owned three companies. I was flying small engine airplanes. I was in the gym 5, 6 days a week. I was raising a family, keeping up with the house, and I had a modeling and acting agent that I happen to know through social media that started
Mm.
pushing me into submitting me for commercials or reality TV shows. And, you know, my response was, listen, I don't have any modeling or acting skills, wanted me to do modeling stuff. And that person told me, hey, well, listen, I believe in you. I know you could do it. You're really intelligent. You're a successful businessman. You're good looking. You're in shape. I've helped other people, and I was very apprehensive. And eventually, I said, well, okay, yeah, you could submit me for this. Then they're like, well, send me a headshot. I don't have a headshot.
Wait.
Well, just send me a photo of this. And eventually I landed, what you talked about in the beginning. I landed a commercial for NBC News,
Mm-hmm.
which was a 6 hour shoot, improv. And I realized I love this.
Yep. It's
I felt,
addicting, isn't it?
yeah. And, I fell in love with it. And then eventually I cut back on, a couple of the companies. I got rid of two of the companies eventually, and that wasn't the specific reason I did that. But once my time was freed up and I was able to start doing more and more things, you know, uh, one thing I want to say is actors or filmmakers or entertainers, we do what we do out of pure love and passion. But what we do is anything but selfish, because what we do for others, to bring them entertainment, to bring them joy, laughter, to stir their emotions, to bring them excitement. And I just find that anybody that is involved in any type of entertainment, whether it's dance or music or art, painting, there's that pure love and passion to do it. But just like a football player or a sports, it wouldn't be satisfying if you couldn't entertain other people
Right.
with the creativity,
You do
and
it because you love
in
it,
the art.
but part of the reward is seeing somebody's eyes light up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is to stir up other people's emotions. And when I know something, if you've ever watched a movie or something and it brings tears to your eyes and you could just empathize with them and they're delivering,
Yes.
they're doing their job if they could stir your emotions.
And I mean, when you say that as an actor, you saying that makes me excited because that's what I live to do. Like, I want to move somebody. Maybe it moves them to just, in that moment they are happier than they've been in months. Maybe in that moment, it brings out that sadness, that woefulness, but that was my intention. Like, it wasn't my intention to move a specific person, but it was my intention to tell the story, my part of the story, in such a way that it's so authentic that you can help connect.
Yeah. One of the first things I heard my acting coach say, this was back in 2019, is that people will go watch you do what they're afraid to do, to cry, to show emotions, because people will drink, do drugs, gamble,
yes,
different vices to suppress their feelings, but yet they'll go pay to go watch you perform and do what they're afraid to do. And it kind of goes back to when I was brought up in New York. I had a grandfather, my grandfather Tony, who I loved and adored, and was a mentor to me, but he was this really tough blue collar worker. And it was back then, it was men shouldn't cry.
Sure.
And I remember my dad's father, my grandfather passed away, and I was 12, and we were at the funeral, and I ran out and ran into the bathroom because I started crying, and no one else was crying, and I heard my grandfather say to my grandmother, "What the hell's he crying for? He didn't even really know him that good."
Right.
And I was thinking, oops, I shouldn't be crying.
Right.
But I learned later in life, the one thing you said about, being a man or being authentic, to me, is being vulnerable.
Yes.
And not being afraid to cry. So that's me now, which really helps me in the acting,
Absolutely.
Because I'm not afraid to show emotions. I'm not afraid to tell people, my friends or anybody, hey, I love you.
Well, my transition out, I should say out of the corporate world, but, from being in the corporate world every day to doing this, that actually hurt me, because I couldn't access my emotions. Because guess what? Regardless of where we think we've, found ourselves with societally, with regards to, men don't have to be hard all the time. And if you're in business, and especially if you're in a corporate environment, you get judged by that kind of stuff. And so, I suppressed it. I did exactly what you said. I suppressed it, and then I had whatever vices I could engage in to, occupy my mind so that stuff wouldn't come up and bite me, right? And I started getting into acting, and I thought I was really, really, expressive and expressing, and I wasn't. I was stiff, and I was calculating, and I was still all those things, just at a lower level than what I had been, but I was still all those things. And it took me a little bit of lesson learning to figure that out. You're spot on with that. And then the other thing I'll tell you is one thing that I don't know if you know this, but the other thing we share is we're both from New York. And
remind me where you're from in New York.
I'm from the city. I'm from Queens, and
Awesome.
I feel like I was meant for this world, this work. What we do. When I was 4, I think, I don't even remember it, but I went to an audition, and I was basically hired to be on the cast of Sesame Street.
Wow.
But I never did it. I never worked a day on Sesame Street because what it required was a daily commute.
Yeah.
And my mom had to bring me, and we had to ride the subway, and she just didn't think that was a smart thing to do every single day.
Yeah.
And so I never got to do it. And years later, I actually found myself through acting. Like I found my real authentic self.
That's so awesome. But I want to say cheers to a fellow New Yorker.
Absolutely, brother. Who's your football team? Who's your football team?
Dallas Cowboys.
No! You're
well,
killing
listen,
me.
I'm from Buffalo, but after Buffalo lost the Super Bowl 3 years in a row, I ditched them. I was living in South Florida at the time, which Miami was always one of my teams.
Buffalo lost to my team. The Giants, baby. I have a lot of hatred because I live in Dallas, Brother, thank you so much for joining me. This has been an absolute pleasure. And one of the, I mean, there's a lot of goals of this, but one of them is just to connect, with somebody on a deeper level. And I think that even though we've known each other for so long, we pushed that envelope to a different level. And I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, I got a couple more things if we got a minute or two.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of the things, it was kind of one of the last things you said, as an actor and just in life in general, don't care about what other people think. Other people's opinion do not matter. If you're worried about what somebody else thinks, you might be afraid to get up in front of the camera.
Brother, you live in the social media age. Everybody manicures their image.
Yeah, so it's just like, be authentic, be you. Either people like you or they don't. And if you're too worried about what other people think, you're going to be all in your head, because it really doesn't matter what other people think.
It is so true.
So just be you. And then also wanted to touch on a couple of the projects. Yesterday.
That's what I wanted to close on. Let's do this.
Okay. So yesterday I had a small role as I play an Italian immigrant in a really amazing movie. It's based on a true story called The End of the Santa Fe Trail. So that was released yesterday. What I'm most noted for...
Indie? Small budget indie? Mid-budget indie?
Well, it's... I don't really know exactly where the budget was, but I know it was a pretty pricey project.
I with the strikes and stuff, I want you to talk about your projects, but if it's falls under SAG, I don't want you to. I don't want you to get in trouble.
No. So, what I'm most noted for is my character role in The Devil's Ring, where I play Leo, King of the Ring, Luciano, which was.
Check this movie out, please.
Yes, there's no way you could watch the movie and not love it. So it came out on Amazon Prime, Vudu, Spectrum, Fios, Google Play, iTunes, Apple TV, and a host of other digital platforms. It also came out on a DVD. Walmart, Best Buy, and Barnes & Nobles picked us up for worldwide distribution on the DVD and Blu-ray.
Devil's Ring, get your DVD players out of storage and watch it.
Yeah, and then the cool thing was distribution chose one of my photos from my scene in the movie for the back of the DVD.
Okay.
So that was
Gotta love that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool for me. But that role, I played this tough guy Italian, former boxing champion from New Jersey who relocates to Dallas and owns a couple gyms, Leo Luciano's boxing gym. And, it's a lot of drama, conflict, and I play the badass. So that was a role I really loved. And I've played a few other roles like movie roles like that. And the big movie coming out, this one I play a police officer, Officer Borelli. I have a small role in this, but I've been very influential with the movie and with helping out with the movie on a lot of different aspects. So it's called The House of Dolls. Mm-hmm. It's going to be I believe it's going to be the next mega hit horror thriller slasher movie of the century.
Can't wait for the premiere.
Yeah. So we have 3 premieres coming up. Now, how exciting is this? September 28th, New York City in Manhattan.
Wow.
We fly to New York for the red carpet movie premiere there. Fly back to Dallas Saturday, September 30th. I'll
see you there.
The red carpet movie premiere. And then we fly to LA, Beverly Hills, October 3rd. We have the final red carpet movie premiere and also the release of the movie on digital and select theaters throughout the U.S. So if you got a personal invite from me for the New York City premiere is already sold out. If you still have some time, but it's almost sold. The Dallas premiere is almost sold out. And if you're out in LA, you got a special invite from me.
Get on
Would
it.
love to see you at the LA premiere, but the Dallas premiere, hurry, get your tickets. And Scott, I just want to say, man, I really appreciate you having me here. I've enjoyed our time together, and I look forward to us working on a project
Let's
together.
do it, man.
You
Hey,
know. Oh,
you're
also,
good.
could we talk about the other project that you and I are involved in, or
It's
if not,
we
I won't say anything. We'll
we are
share.
involved in a really cool project together. It's currently on hold because it was being pitched to studios. It's on hold, but I think the direction's changing on that. So we'll see. I don't know that if we can talk about it or not.
Yeah.
So I'm
Well,
gonna
well,
err
we
towards
won't.
not.
We'll save that for a later podcast.
But I will say it's super cool.
Can I say what my role is?
Dude,
The mob boss of Dallas.
hey, let's go. All right, Michael, thank you so much for joining me on Life Camera
Yes.
Acting.
Yes.
It's been my absolute pleasure. This has been a great talk, and I look forward to the premiere on the 30th.
Yes.
All right,
Saturday,
brother.
September 30th. Cheers, brother.
Cheers. Well, that's a wrap on today's conversation. I really love having these conversations. They give us all a glimpse into, well, other ways to approach situations, problems, and issues that come up. Together with the super producer, Cooper Collins, and my guest of the day, we hope that you'll be back with us for our next episode in 2 weeks. As for now, we out. Peace, y'all.